Hello, everyone, and welcome to Games Connect Us All. I'm Connor,
I'm Jake.
and this is GCUA.
Yep.
Today we have a topic. Last
Uh-huh.
um, last week we did PC and VR gaming. We decided not to do part two this week. We're going to do it next week, just because we want to take a little bit of a break from that topic. But we're talking about another very interesting topic that I'm kind of excited for, and it is video games as an art form. So, like,
Yes. Would Bob Ross be proud of what video games have become?
the thing is, people consider certain movies like art, or certain music art. Obviously, we're both music guys. I'm in school for fucking music right now, um, and it's classified as art. But what makes video games any different? What makes something artistic?
Great question. We're going to answer that question today.
Yes.
Between bites of Hershey's, we will find out.
So, anything interesting you'd like to talk about as our small talk, Jake?
Mm. Not today. I think we should jump into the action today.
Oh, okay.
No small talk. I mean, if you guys couldn't tell, the last few videos have been recorded in succession.
Yeah.
So I think that there's not much more to say about that.
There isn't much more to say about what we're.
But at the start of part two of our gaming tech video, we'll have some more small talk for all of you, I promise.
Yes, yes. But yeah, then let's just jump right into it. Jake, what do you think makes something artistic?
This is a great question. And it's not even like artistic, but I think just something being art. I think something is art if it can be interpreted and have meaning taken from it.
That's fair.
In any way. I don't think art needs to have an intention. I think someone drawing a random squiggle on a board is still art because it can be interpreted by another person as such.
Well, that's a good way of putting it, because like I said, music. Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata. I don't know if you knew this. He never, like, Beethoven. I think we talked about this in the class we had last year, where he never intended for that to mean anything. Like, it wasn't intended to be like, oh, it wasn't intended to give this sort of imagery off, because that's what that classical music wasn't intended to give, like, strong senses of imagery.
No,
So,
there's just another one of his things. He was
right.
like, "Ah, fuck it, I'm
He
gonna
did
write
lead
some
in,
more music."
he did lead into the romantic period, but that's besides the point. It was interpreted to be like this kind of stormy esque like thing. When you think of Moonlight Sonata, you think of like a rainstorm as a house like zooms in with like rain pouring down, and each of like the like that's like these like lightning bolts shooting out in the distance. Like, it gives you a sense of imagery, but it gives you something to interpret from it, even though the composer himself and the artist never intended it. And I think that was a great way of putting it, honestly.
So I think that's how I would define art. And they'll tie into some examples that we bring in later.
Right. So we've defined art, something that can be interpreted as different aspects. Now, what makes video games specifically artistic and fall into that category of art? What aspects of them what aspects really strike you when you're playing a game about, like, oh man, this like makes me feel something, this makes me want to interpret it?
Right, and not necessarily what makes a game art, but what artistic values can a game portray to make you feel these ways.
Right. I think a story is a very, very strong.
Yeah,
It's
nothing beats a game with a great story.
honestly. And then I once something that really disappointed me. There was a guy I used to watch on YouTube and Twitch all the time, and I saw a TikTok of his, and he goes, "I have a hot take. Video games don't need stories. Like, there's no reason for you to ever have a story in a video game. Why would you want one? And I'm like, you're missing the whole point of a video game. Well, maybe not the whole
Yeah.
point, but like you're missing.
I don't
you're
think they
missing
need to have
some-
a story.
They don't need
I
to have a
think-
story to be fun, but like,
Yeah, games having a story can elevate it, and I guess I agree that game doesn't need to have a story, but saying that all games shouldn't have stories is a pretty
Right.
bad opinion.
and like I was flabbergasted. Like, there's no. Why? Why would you not want a story in your game?
I also feel like stories is a big part of art in general. Like a lot of music, visual arts, movies, paintings are meant to tell stories, and some paintings and music and movies don't tell stories, same way that some games tell stories and some games don't.
Right. Like, you may be playing Jelly Car, but you like that's still a fucking like piece of art. It's different. It doesn't have a
Absolutely.
story. It probably ties into one of these other aspects. We have visual art direction. Like, each game has its own separate way of portraying the characters visually. So like, I'm trying to think of an example, but bit pixel graphics, like pixel sprites. That's like a very common artistic direction in video games now, and it reminiscent of like old school video games, and it gives you that sense of nostalgia, even if like you don't, even if you haven't played those older games when you were a kid. Like, you just feel like it's older, and you like feel that, and
Feels
that's-
homey.
Feels homey. That's a great way of putting it. It feels homey. And like Jelly Car, like I said, it's a stupid
Yeah, Jelly
game.
Car.
It's a stupid game, but like it has its own unique style of visual art.
Right.
And sound design. That's not. I don't think that's
Yeah.
something we have written down, but that's like something. As
I think it
well.
goes with music, sound and music design,
Mhm.
which we're not gonna go too deeply into because with both of us being music freaks,
Uh-huh.
there's definitely gonna be at least one video just for video game music.
At least one, and it's going to be a big one. That's going to be something we're going to spend a lot of time on.
It's gonna be like a really special video for us,
So,
video game music.
but yeah,
But I think an interesting thing about video games is how they incorporate many of the humanities into their artistic direction. I think to say that a video game is not art is foolish because, I mean, Mario is art. The design of Mario could be a painting that someone made.
right.
And the music in Mario is art. It could be a song that someone made. And the different, music and visual arts, graphic design, pencil drawings, pixel art, all these art forms come together. Storytelling as an art form, cinematography, like,
right.
for cutscenes
Yeah.
and stuff. It all comes together in video games, and I find that is one of my favorite things about video games is how they're such multimedia.
Yeah, they incorporate so many different parts of like art. Like
Yeah.
there's no other way to say it. Like they incorporate so many different aspects of art that it's like it's hard to not describe them as art. So,
I've actually been I saw an ad on Facebook
well,
for Berklee College of Music that was like explore video game composition as a career choice. And I was like
it is a career choice.
I was like, "Oh my goodness." Like I guess I never thought of it that way, and it's starting to inspire me a bit.
Well, something that I'm looking into as a career is musicology, which is the study of music and how it relates to other social sciences and music history. And a specific part of that is ludomusicology, which is video game music. And like that's like a whole area of music that you can study and analyze, and like there are people that have whole jobs doing this. Like, and I don't know, it's not just oh, little Timmy's playing his Mario, and he's like just like jamming out to stupid Mario music. It's that Mario music was intended to give somebody a certain feeling while playing the game, and like even if it's not a really extensive feeling, like they're not trying to make them feel this pain through the music and trying to extract this sort of like
Super Mario Brothers. Super Mario Brothers broke me.
It's intended to
then
make
put
you
me
feel
back
happy.
together.
It's intended to make you feel
Yeah.
happy. That's like the intent, and that's enough, honestly. So let's talk about some games.
Speaking of games, we have a new segment popping
oh my
in.
God, a brand new segment that we hope we're going to be able to do pretty often. It's called Indie Hour.
Indie Hour is a segment where Connor and I experience a random indie game selected from a website such as itch.io or Game Jolt, and we play it, make a video on it. Hopefully you saw that video by now.
Yes.
And if you haven't, now's your time to go check it out. And then during the podcast, we make a little review of the game.
It's pretty cool, and I'm hoping that we can do this quite a bit. So this week we played Symphony of Seven Souls.
The Symphony of Seven Souls. Yes.
This is an indie game. I believe it was a Game Jam game.
Mhm.
And Game Jam games are always unique because they're made in such a small amount of time. Jake was the one who played it, and I watched. So, Jake, why don't you explain
probably
your
split up.
experience?
We'll probably split that up. Some weeks Connor will play.
Yeah, probably
Some weeks I'll play.
alternate.
So it was a horror game with a kind of a gothic feel.
Lightly horror game, I would say.
Yeah, it wasn't super creepy, but I'm gonna read a quick synopsis that I don't think we realized while we were playing. Sleepless nights staring at a blank score page as you try to write your latest symphony have taken their toll. Your creative will has all but dried up. If you are to still the unrelenting pressure to create, then you'll have to take a more drastic approach. Raising up your bow and take to the streets. Search for the willing dead to join your unholy orchestra. Perhaps then you can finally write the Symphony of Seven Souls.
Ooh.
So I guess that was the plot that we might have missed out on a little bit.
I did miss out on that. I thought it was more or less like you saw these souls like about, and you were just like, "Oh my
Freeing
god,
them.
I need to free them."
That's what I thought.
Music.
Which I think is much cooler. Like, if it was I assumed that it was like a 7-person band, but then they all got murdered. But now you're going through and
Is that what you thought?
what?
You thought it was a 7-person band that just all got murdered, and you were just
No, I thought it was like, I don't know, they all used to play in the church symphony, and they died in different ways, so you had to go around and like free their souls in order to make the symphony play once more.
Church symphonies are my favorites.
Well, yeah, okay. You know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
But the game had an excellent style. I'd say that was its leading
It had
leading thing. It knew
had
its
a
tone.
vibe. It had a vibe, had a tone, and it played into it really well.
Yeah, and despite the story not being that deep, the world building, the design, the visual art direction, and the music were all great, which are things that we just talked about
Yeah.
with games as art. And I think that this was an amazing piece of art.
I feel like the tone and the music were like the leading factors.
Definitely.
You walk around playing this violin the entire time. That's what helps you free the souls. And you walk around this like gothic cathedral like area, and freeing these souls. And
Or I guess recruiting these souls.
Yeah, I guess recruiting them to help you with your symphony. So you're playing this violin, and the song that plays in the violin is so beautiful. Like, it literally is like, I wish that, I'm sure it's on like some platform. I'm sure it's on YouTube, but like, I wish it was on Spotify. I want to add this to like a playlist. Like,
maybe we can find it at some point.
maybe, but like,
But
that was the highlight for me, honestly. There wasn't
It was
a
a
lot
great
of
game.
There wasn't a lot of spooks though. That was kind of disappointing.
The spook factor was pretty low overall.
Yeah.
I want to find it was developed by Katina Levy,
Cats in a Levy.
who has some other games that we might be able to try out sometime.
I do recommend this game. I think it's a good thing to
Oh
experience.
yeah, this is a great, definitely great, and it's free on itch.io. Definitely worth a playthrough. It's only about 10 minutes.
Yeah, if you don't fuck
Get
up trying to
confused
find,
like we do.
Yeah, we walked by the last like soul that we had to free like 50 times or so.
Yeah.
Like it was crazy. But the definitely go experience this game for yourself.
Yeah.
You won't be disappointed. There was one other thing I wanted to say about it. I don't remember what it was. Something that would make the game a lot better would have been like a monster chasing you, or like a reason to not play your violin willy
I
nilly.
think I think a mechanic that was like if you play the violin too much, something starts like infecting your mind or chasing you or something.
Right, because
That'd be a good touch.
we were just walking around constantly strumming the violin. There was like no reason to not do that because the ghosts showed up when you strummed them. Whatever. Bowed it.
Yeah.
Not strummed. But whatever. It was a good game.
So yes, that was the Symphony of Seven Souls. We highly recommend this indie game, and tune in next time for our next indie hour.
Yep.
So let's get back to the meat and potatoes, which is something that we say almost every episode.
Is
I've
it?
noticed. Yeah, it's like I don't know what it is, but we're always just like, let's get back to the meat and potatoes.
I like meat and potatoes. Have you ever had like good beef stew? Have you ever had my mom's beef stew? I feel like you've been.
I don't know if I've ever had beef stew. Period.
I feel like you were up at camp with me one time and you had beef stew.
I never went to your camp.
No, like I can't say the name of the camp's grounds, but
Oh.
like you definitely went
Was
up
I
to
there?
camp with me before.
Oh,
Or she might not.
okay.
She might not have made beef stew.
No
at the
beef
time.
stew though. Mm.
But that's like it's
I don't
so
recall.
Good. It's got like big chunks of beef in it and big potatoes, and they've got like.
I remember this.
We're about
I
to say
remember
the
eating
stench.
no, the Last Supper. That was your mom's best cooking. It was so good.
Oh my god, yes, that was really good. Ham and scalloped potatoes. If you haven't had ham and scalloped potatoes, if you haven't had
And
beef
corn.
stew, oh, what was it?
Corn on the cob too.
That's right, corn on the cob. Oof.
Corn on the cob is one of the greatest foods, in my opinion.
I don't like it so much on the cob. I like it when it's originally on the cob, but you like
And then
cut
it's
it
taken off.
You cut it off with a knife, and it's got like, that flat side to it.
Oh, when I
my
had
God.
braces, that's the way I had to eat corn on the cob. It also made me feel special. It's like everyone else eating corn on the cob, but my dad has to be like, gotta be cut up.
But like it's so oh my god, it like the texture like is so much
It's
better.
good.
Why did we get on food?
I don't know. I like the feeling of eating an ear of corn and like getting. This is really weird, and no one's gonna agree, but like getting the corn stuck in your teeth.
Really, you like that feeling?
It's like I just devoured this, and now the
The remains.
yeah, and I like picking them out. It feels good.
Picking them
It's a
out.
good
That is
sensation.
that is a good feeling when you finally get it out after all that time.
And that's kind of like my. I've never like said that out loud,
Your
and I've never
guilty
realized how weird
pleasure?
it sounds.
Your guilty
My
pleasure.
guilty pleasure is eating corn on the cob and then picking the cob out of my teeth.
Yeah. All right then. I mean, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. That's something that weird that I do. I like. Okay, this is gonna be a little bit weird. Like mashed potatoes, and like semi-solid foods. So stuff that's like kind of like gloopy, for lack of a better term.
That's gloopy. Okay.
Gloopy. Well, even like gummies, I do the same thing with. I like to let them liquefy in my mouth. So like, I let it sit in my mouth for a minute until it gets like almost completely liquid. Besides, like mashed potatoes has chunks in it, so obviously you can't.
Oh,
The chunks.
oh! I was picturing it with a gummy and it sounded good, and now I'm picturing it with
Well, gummies.
mashed potatoes.
Gummy is when I normally do it, but like I do it with like mashed potatoes and trying to think what else. I can't think of it now. Probably mashed potatoes is the main one, I guess. But I love just letting it sit in my mouth, and like gummies in particular, just letting them all like liquefy.
I do that with
like,
gummies.
To get them all
Swedish
soft.
Fish.
Swedish Fish is the best one. That and Haribo. So Haribo in general really sucks for this, but their watermelon.
Haribo won't die when you're eating it.
Yeah, but the watermelon ones, oh my god, they're so good for that. Like, I really like opaque gummies, like the ones that are like the underbelly of like the blue sharks. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
Like I love that kind of gummy. I don't know what the difference is. It's like creamier or something, but it just
Yeah.
I love the texture of it, and it tastes so good. My girlfriend got me like little gummy frogs with like that underbelly on it. Oh
Ooh.
my god!
Wait, before we get to the actual topic, wanna know something that I do with like rigatoni?
Sure.
Rigatoni's like the little rolls,
Yeah.
right? Little
Yeah.
cylinders. When I'm eating them, I like fold it in half in my mouth, and then cut it so that there's 2/4 and 1/2, and then I cut the 1/2 in half so that I have 4/4, and then I chew it in my mouth. I don't like take each one on the plate and like cut it up.
It needs to be perfect. The plate of like 500 rigatonis, you're cutting each one into fourths.
No, but it's some sort of like, I don't want to say an OCD thing, but it's that type of thing where it's like, this is just how I eat rigatoni. It's just, you just got to do it this way.
It's a neurodivergent thing.
I guess so.
You're not neurotypical.
You know what I realized the other day?
What?
So I was doing this thing, and I don't know if you do this, but like when I'm alone at home, where I just walk around and say everything that's in my mind.
It
just makes me feel good.
I do that all the
Like,
time.
every thought I have, I just say it. And so this is when I learned, as I'm going down the stairs, that I count stairs.
Really?
I'm really bad. I was like, whatever I was saying out loud, and then I was like, oh, I'm gonna go downstairs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh shit! I count stairs.
Jake, have you ever taken an autism test?
No.
I think you might want to consider it.
But it's always like when I'm going up and down stairs, and now I'm noticing it more than ever. Oh, and when I skip stairs, I go like 1, 3, 5, 7.
Oh my god! I
And
do.
you know what else I've started doing now is chords. Like when I'm going up the stairs, like 1, 3, 5, and I have 6 stairs, so I keep going 1, 3, 5, 6.
That is interesting.
Yeah, maybe it'll help me with my interval identification skills.
It definitely will. I give a fucking. I suck at that shit. But my. This is very off topic. We're getting very off topic, but
Yeah.
Towards the beginning of the semester this year, I met my girlfriend, and she's a little autistic, and she kept telling me, "I think you're autistic. Like I think you are," and she kept like saying it to me. I was like, "Fine." And one day when I was going to take a nap, I texted her, I'm like, I'm going to take a nap, and then I like rolled over a few minutes. I'm like, I'm going to take an autism test instead. So I pulled out my phone, I took the RADS-R test, and like according to the RADS-R test, I know it's not like technically like all the way there, but it's one of the best tests you can take to to see whether you are or not. And apparently I'm like a little bit autistic, a little more than a little bit, according to the RADS-R test. Which I
I want to signify that me like giggling a little bit is not me like giggling at that. It's the way that you're like, I might be a little autistic.
I
You did
might,
this little
I
thing.
might be a little autistic, but yeah, I mean, yeah, I do little things like that all the time. I don't count steps, but I used to, back in my old house when I used to have steps all the time. I'm glad I broke this habit before I got to college, but I used to crawl up steps. I used to like because
Yeah, I used to do that too.
our steps were so steep that I used to just like put my hands down and crawl up. Like I did that for years, because it was just faster.
Yeah, we had 13 steps in my old apartment, and like every time I would just.
I mean, we're definitely not neurotypical.
It makes it so fast to get up the stairs.
Yeah.
It's like you become a whole different species when you're going up the stairs,
Right.
and you're just like, and then you're at the top.
There was a point to my story besides the fact that I'm autistic or whatever. I had taken the test and I found out the results. And I had texted my girlfriend without any context whatsoever. She thought I was sleeping. I go, instead of sleeping, I took an autism test. So that's a common
Quote for the ages.
quote for the ages. But yeah, maybe we should start talking about video games in our video game
Yes,
podcast.
let's get back to the video games.
Do you want to go first?
I think I'll go first, and
All right.
this is a game.
So before we start, we're gonna go through 4 individual games for each of us, and why we think they're autistic. Artistic. Why do you think they're artistic? Oh my
Yes.
god.
So I'll start out.
Okay, go ahead.
I feel like I picked things that exemplify all of the different aspects of art that can be incorporated into games, and a big one for me was story. Story is important to me in a video game. I enjoy many video games without stories, but boy, do I appreciate a good, juicy story to munch on.
I agree.
So, my first game I have here is Firewatch,
Okay.
which I have discussed previously as a game that I like. It's basically a walking simulator. The story, I guess it's more of a world building, character building than story thing for me with that game that I find so fascinating. Is just, I got really connected to the main character that you play as for some reason. And you're talking to like this woman over a radio, and basically just like having conversations with her, and the story payoff isn't that great in the end. And I won't spoil anything that happens. I highly recommend to play it. It's on Game Pass. But yeah, it's a good one, and it really has really great character building and like dialogue scenes, really great writing. I just feel like that's underappreciated in games, like having great writing
Yeah.
and great acting, great amazing voice acting.
Yeah.
So I thought that exemplified like the more storytelling / writing side of video games that I feel like is underappreciated.
I definitely agree. Story in video games, and specifically character building, is really important to me. This isn't one of my 4 games, but I thought I should bring it up. Very different from Firewatch, the Yakuza series. The characters are the entire thing. The characters and story, like the gameplay is okay, but like the story is where you really get drawn in, and the voice actors are amazing. And like that's Yakuza 0 is one of my favorite games of all time. Like story and character development are insanely important to me when it comes to looking at an artistic game and like really analyzing it for what it is, like being attached to it.
Absolutely. So what's your first game?
So the first game that I'm going to talk about is also because of its story, is Undertale. So I know you don't know a whole lot about Undertale.
I only know.
You should
I
know.
only know
You should know a lot about Undertale.
Sans.
I want
and
you at
Papyrus.
some point to go play Undertale.
I've read Undertale fan fiction, but I've never played the game.
I don't know how to respond to that. Okay. I think you should go play the game because it is an incredible game. Its story is its main focus, and you do see a lot of lovable characters. The characters are a big part of it because you get so attached to them. Although I wouldn't say that like the characters are like insanely like amazingly written. Like they're good. They're good characters. But where the game really shines is through its morality system, because you can choose to not kill anything throughout the entire game, or you can choose to kill literally everything the entire game, and then each game gives you a different ending depending on which one however you do. And it's the reason I'm calling it art is because it really plays with you. It makes you feel a lot of things when you play it. Like, you play a pacifist run. I'm not going to give any spoilers, any major spoilers, I should say. But you go through the pacifist run, and you end up befriending a lot of the characters, like, even bosses that you're supposed to be fighting, like, that you would be fighting normally. Like, you end up befriending them, and they end up, like, being your friend the entire game. Well, then, after making friends with these characters, you go back and play a genocide route where you kill literally everything, and then you kill these characters in the most brutal way possible, and it really makes you like sad. It like makes you actively like upset about it.
I never thought I'd hear the words genocide route in the game.
Really, that's actually pretty common now, I think, because Undertale.
Is it? I took the genocide route.
Yeah, genocide route is how is what it's called.
It happens in like a lot of games now.
Well, I think it's I don't know if people call it the genocide route, but like that idea exists in a lot of games.
Of like making all the wrong decisions.
Right, like Detroit Become Human. You could
Gotcha.
Like Connor, like but the android Connor, like you can choose to kill everyone. I think I haven't played through that game all the way, but like I'm pretty sure like you can choose to make all the bad decisions and completely fuck everyone else up. And
it doesn't end the game; it just lets you keep going.
Right.
I find that interesting.
Right, and I think that is something huge because giving choice-based games are very interesting because like you could either do them really well or do them really poorly. And I feel like Undertale is one of those games that do it really well, of like giving you really two main objectives. There is like a middle one that you can choose by just playing the game normally. But like the two main ones, if you play them one right after the other, you feel a lot of emotions playing that. And I feel like any game that is able to tug on your emotions like that is something that deserves to be called art.
I agree. So shall I go to my next pick?
Yes.
So my next pick is Horizon Zero Dawn, which I have been playing and not making much progress in completing because I'm starting to learn that this is a very, very long game for me. I know some people could probably beat it quickly, but with the amount of time I have, I'd consider this a pretty long game. So I've been playing it, and I've been appreciating both the world design and the gameplay, which I feel like gameplay is another thing that could be an artistic aspect that is exclusive to video games.
Right.
But that's like immediately what comes to my head is like the combat system, which is fairly basic, but it's so like fun, especially for me. I've been playing it on controller, which if I haven't explained before, I don't have a console anymore other than Switch, so I don't use controllers much, usually keyboard and mouse guy. But I've been sticking to exclusively using a controller, and it just feels so like smooth and feels so right to play as Aloy in Horizon. And the world building, just like the there's so much screenshot potential in this game,
Oh man.
and yeah, screenshots are can always make a game for me. But like just the world that they created and the way that they portrayed it in the map for you to explore is chef's kiss, amazing.
I will say, I do mostly prefer controller when it comes to consoles or when it comes to games, especially like third person games like Horizon.
I think that's what I'm learning.
I just feel like they enhance the experience so much more.
I'm learning that I love keyboard and mouse for like shooters and competitive games, and that if I'm trying to be immersed in like a gaming experience, I'm gonna want a controller all the way.
Right. That's what I did for GTA. I
Mm.
recently finished that game, and I used a controller throughout the entire thing because it's a controller is just it's exclusive to gaming. Like you don't pick up a controller to type with. Like you
Yeah.
A
Hold on, I gotta write my essay.
essay.
Let me grab the Xbox controller. I don't know where mine
all
is.
you can type is A, B, X, and Y. But yeah, you don't use a controller for anything else besides gaming, and it's really a unique part of it. And the gameplay, I've never played Horizon. Is it good? I assume it's good. If you
It's good. I like it. My only criticism is that despite the world building being really good, sometimes it feels like it just goes on just to go on.
Hmm.
As far as like the map, it's like this forest goes on forever and there's not really anything here.
That's okay. That makes sense. I get that.
But like, as part of the design, I feel like the map could have been smaller, especially for a gamer like me who likes bite-sized pieces. The game doesn't feel bite-sized. If I sit down, I'm playing it for like 3 hours.
See, that's the thing. That's something. A little bit of a side tangent. I prefer like smaller games. Like I don't like
Me too.
large games that take like hours and hours to beat. I don't really like. That's why I really like the Metroid series. The games aren't like huge. They don't take fucking 50 hours to beat. Like if you really wanted to, you could sit down for like a 12-hour gaming session and beat it all in one sitting. But like especially if you had a guide. But like a game like Horizon or Skyrim even, like those kind of games just are massive, and they're fun for a little while until I get burnt out of them.
Yeah, I like being able to just have a game where I can do big stories, but I can also hop in for 10 minutes. That's why I really like, this one's not on my list, but another side tangent game, Spider-Man PS4. Perfect for, hey, I just got home from school, but I only have 15 minutes. Let me go do 2 side missions and swing around to Spider-Man because it's really fun. But then I get home later and it's like, oh, I have 3 hours. Let's do like 3 story missions and get some really good story.
Right.
That's a game that I would have put on the list had I thought of it.
Yeah, I have GTA was a game like that for me, but I also think that it kind of plays into my next game pretty well. So, can we move on to that?
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
What's your next game?
So this one is going to be probably a little bit of a longer, like segment, but the Zelda series as a whole, the Legend
This
of
one we can both talk about.
yes, the Legend of Zelda series. I'm going to talk about specifically Breath of the Wild in a minute because that's the one I really want to focus on. But the rest of the Zelda series is just so artistically beautiful, especially in the gameplay department and in the visual visual art, because each game has its own distinct style when it comes to its art direction. Wind Waker and Twilight Princess are complete opposites, and they came right after each other. Twilight Princess came right after Wind Waker, and it was such a great contrast, but they are so distinct, and they give off two different vibes if they're the same series.
Absolutely.
And Breath of the Wild is the epitome. Like if you had to choose one artistic Zelda game, like you could argue like Skyward Sword for its like story, or Wind Waker for its artistic, stylistic differences. But Breath of the Wild is the one you point to, like. But the reason what I want to focus on is its passive storytelling. The story of the game sucks. I want to put that out there. That's like the one complaint I have with the game. The story really fucking sucks. Even the DLC.
I wish it just had like 2 or 3 like twists and turns,
right, or
throughout
just
the
like,
story, other than just like,
or more
here's your
cutscenes.
goal,
or just even more cutscenes. Even the DLC didn't really like add that much to it, and I haven't played through Age of Calamity like enough to know if that really fixes anything. But I shouldn't have to buy a new game to experience the story. But that's besides the point. I'm talking about positive things about Breath of the Wild.
Yeah. The cutscenes are amazing.
The cutscenes are really well rendered, but it's just that there
I
isn't
would
enough
watch
of them.
They made me want a Zelda movie so bad, in that exact animation style with the same voice actors and everything.
Yes,
It's just perfect.
It would have been amazing. You should play Age of Calamity. It's like basically cutscene central. It's got the same kind of cutscenes, and it's got more of a story to it. It's a Hyrule Warriors game.
Right.
So Breath of the Wild. It's passive storytelling. I want you to imagine you're somebody who who's only played Ocarina of Time throughout your entire like gaming experience. You've only played that one Zelda game, and you go to Breath of the Wild. And you're like, man, this is really cool, but this is nothing. This is nothing like the Hyrule I imagined it. Then you riding in your horse, and then you take a step off on this like abandoned ranch, and you look around. You start to recognize some areas of it. This house is in a similar position to what you remember. The track is wow, that's pretty close to Lon Line Ranch from Ocarina of Time, and it's the same ranch, just decayed. And that's only one example out of many. There's like
the Temple of Time.
Temple of Time, Fort Hateno, I think, is one of the locations. The Temple of Time is a great one as well. The decapitated, the dilapidated building is.
Oh, and the music at that part.
I know
the theme, the Temple of Time theme, but like, the chords are broken up the same way the castle's broken up.
Yes,
so cool.
It's so cool.
That's like one of my favorite gaming music moments, is when you discover the Temple of Time in Breath of the Wild, but we'll get to that.
And the idea of like the entire thing being like just gone after it was so important. It was the most important place in Ocarina of Time. Held the Master Sword. You use the like 3 emblems of each of the races in order to open it. It's this like insanely important like building, and it's just broken down. And it serves no purpose in Breath of the Wild at all. It has a Hylia statue, and that's where you find the king. But the game does a great way of telling the story of like Ganon winning. It's the first Zelda game where Ganon wins, and you see the aftermath of it, and you see the war, the remains of the war. I believe Fort Hateno is the one I'm thinking of. It's like a giant like bridge almost, like a gateway and you can see guardians climb like decayed guardians climbing up the walls, and you see a couple travelers walking back and forth. And this, it hits you in that moment. There were real people, not real people, but there were people fighting.
There were real fake people.
There were people fighting in this war besides Link. Link wasn't the only person there. There were other people fighting in that war, and they possibly died by these guardians, and they are just gone, and they lost. They held it. Because like it's not completely destroyed, but it's a war, and you can see the remains of Castletown, of basically any building that you could ever think of is just gone. A few settlements remain.
You've made me think about something that Breath of the Wild does that I really wish that more games did. And something that makes Breath of the Wild stand out, where I think I agree that the story that you're playing is kind of boring. It's just like go save the princess or
Right.
like go get revenge on Ganon or whatever. But like the story within the story, and like you said with passive storytelling, not only what all of what you just said, but also like finding the cutscenes and finding the
Right.
story of what happened. That's so underutilized in games where it's like you're thrown into this world and you collect the story as opposed to living the story. And like the real story of Breath of the Wild is what happened leading up to Ganon winning. Not
Right.
necessarily. I feel like you're playing the epilogue of that story almost.
Right. And the other side of that is that there have been games in the past that do that, where they like tell the story through like collectibles or whatever. But they do it all wrong.
I agree.
They make you like read.
It's like letters. You find
yeah,
letters that
letters, and they make you read these like article. I don't want to fucking read an
Dude,
article.
that's an issue with with Horizon 2. You can get the story without reading them, but there's so many things you'll collect where it just like fucking looks like some shit you'd have to read for English class.
Right. And
It's like, dude, I came to this game so that you could just like have a cutscene, have it be cinematic, have there be explosions, and then be like, something epic's about to happen. I didn't come here to read like, my mom was a mechanic, and I died.
I Tomb Raider does that a lot too, where like you can get a
yeah.
majority of the story, but you don't know what's fucking going on unless you read these letters and stuff.
Read the Articles of Confederation to
Basically.
understand.
If you want to, I will say this: if you want to like get a really deep dive into Breath of the Wild, there's a guy on YouTube, one of my favorite YouTubers, Arlo. You'll know him as soon as you see him. He's a big blue Muppet.
He's the Cookie Monster.
Yeah, basically. And
I thought he was like 100% the Cookie Monster.
No,
Is
he
that
was.
not
No,
it?
he's not. He's
Oh.
he's like it's like he gets compared to it all the time, but he's like friendlier.
Oh, okay.
It's hard to explain. You'd have to like see him to understand.
I know his videos and I watched them. I just thought he was like got access to like an old Cookie Monster puppet. And he was like, this is gonna be me.
No, I'm pretty sure he made that himself. But anyway, um,
YouTubers is a topic for a different day.
so the reason I'm bringing him up, he made a 3.5 hour long video detailing his review of Breath of the Wild, and it goes through each of like the different parts of it, and a big part of it is the passive storytelling. And you can watch this, and it's like multiple videos just like mushed together for the sake of viewing pleasure. But I recommend you watch that if you really want to get a deep dive into it. And I believe that there's another one I have to watch by Mock Rock that he recently made. That was a retrospective of Breath of the Wild. That's only like an hour and a half long, but
All right. So what do you say we get into both of our last two games?
yes.
We'll go a little quicker through these ones.
Okay.
It's been a long evening, and we have a lot more to say. So let's.
Okay, just go ahead.
I'm going. My next choice is Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order.
Okay.
I feel like this is a game that really like checks all the boxes for me of what a game should be. It's got a great story. Like for Star Wars, this game is lacking absolutely no story. I mean, it's lacking no story, meaning it has a great story.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, the world design and the world building has already been done by all the Star Wars shit that already exists. At least the world building. The world design is it's really cool to see locations that haven't really been in all the Star Wars movies or whatever. And they're really creative locations that you visit. The music isn't too notable, to be honest. I couldn't tell you a single song from Fallen Order, uh, but I don't remember being appalled by the music or anything.
God,
And
this shit stinks.
And the visual art direction and the acting, I mean, using the face tracking,
Mocap.
having real actors, yeah, mocap, having real actors, amazing voice actors, and just like it all comes together, and it really feels like you're playing a movie. Like it feels like you're playing a Star Wars movie in the best way. Like there's not a single moment where it's like, ugh, like this feels like I'm gaming right now, which is a rare experience, but sometimes you just feel that way.
See, I can't add anything to this conversation because I felt like the exact opposite when I played this game. I really did.
Really?
I really did not like it when I had my experience with it.
Wow.
I played through like the first world and like got through like a little bit of the second one, and then I just couldn't anymore. I like. I don't know what it was about it. I think that there wasn't enough early on in order to like capture me like into it.
Yeah, it wasn't. I guess when it came out, I was a huge Star Wars fan, and I tried replaying it recently, and I got through like the first world and part of the second one when I was kind of like, I don't need to replay this. But when I was this, I think it's really for like big Star Wars fans, I think too. Especially with the way it ties in with some of the movies.
I am a big Star Wars fan. I don't know why it just never clicked.
It just didn't click for you.
Yeah, that's okay though. It's still.
I was very drawn in.
It's a very pretty game. Like it's very.
I was very drawn in by the first like cutscene that happens. That's what got me. And then like I love lightsabers so much too.
Yeah.
And like just everything clicked into place for me with that game, and I could never play it again and recapture the feeling I had when I played it the first time. There's so many great missions later on too.
And that's like I think that's the key of it. Like your first playthrough will never you'll never experience that again. I think that's like that's the mark of a true artistic game. Like
I agree. And like a great game is one where you go back to it and you play like the first level. Same thing with the show. There's shows and movies like this too. I guess not movies because movies are one sitting thing, but a lot of like great shows that I have great memories of. It's always like I want to rewatch this, and I watch one episode and I'm like, yeah, I'm good.
Right.
But it's like you still know that it was amazing.
Yeah.
And that's happened with so many games. Like the first and only game I've ever fully replayed was Mario Galaxy, other than Mario 64.
Right.
But like Mario Galaxy was the first game that I could sit down and be like, I'm playing this again, and I appreciated it from start to finish. But recently I've gone back to a few different games and then played like the first world or the first level, and then kind of been like, yeah, those were the days.
Not a video game, but I had a thing. The only TV show that I've been able to like sit down and binge watch from start to finish and like rewatch was Regular Show. Because I watched that a long time ago when I was young. I didn't watch every episode, but I watched a lot of them. And I remembered a lot of it. And I was able to sit down and watch every episode. I love that show so much. In terms of video games, like, you're right, there aren't that many video games that I could be like sit down and play for like hours and just be like, yeah, this is great. Like I feel like there's one on my computer that I can't look because Discord's in the way. But I feel like I don't know.
There's certainly games I come back to, but when it comes to narratively driven and like
right,
quote unquote artistic games, I can't ever go back and have it be the same.
Yeah, I agree. So
New Game Plus never works out for me.
Yeah. So why don't we continue?
Yeah, what's your penultimate game?
My third pick is Hollow Knight. And this is for a very similar reason to Breath of the Wild. The passive storytelling in this game is it's a masterclass in what passive storytelling is.
I've never played this game, and you've talked about it so many times.
It's a Metroidvania. Are you into Metroidvanias?
I don't even know what that is.
So
Is it like Castlevania / Metroid style games?
So yes,
Makes sense.
Basically, it's a 2D platformer that's like an exploration game. You're trying to find certain items to get you to new areas to get like to where you need to go. Generally, they have a lot of bosses. Newer ones do. I don't think Metroid generally has a ton of bosses now, but yeah, it's besides the point. It's a Metroidvania. It's an amazing game from start to finish. I actually have never finished it. I've gotten close, but in each, the art style at first seems really simplistic. You're this shadow guy with a distinctive like mask. But as you go down, especially in Green Path, oh my god, Green Path is gorgeous. The environment is just it is so lush, and like everything is so detailed. Even in the other like areas of the game where it's not so like not so lush, what you get is a similar story to Breath of the Wild, actually, of a fallen kingdom, but you're not told like exactly what was the reason this kingdom fell. Like, you're never told that explicitly. It's implied very heavily multiple times, but it's never like explicitly said, as far as I know, that this is what destroyed the kingdom and this is the reason. But you see the remains of it. You see all of the like inhabitants of the kingdom. You see how they've fallen into darkness and like how they've just been dilapidated. And it's sad, but it's also just beautiful. Like it's an amazing storytelling. And if you're ever looking to make a game and use passive storytelling as a major element, look at Breath of the Wild and Hollow Knight. And that's all I got to say about that.
Are you gonna pick up the new Hollow Knight game?
Yeah, whenever it comes out. I don't. It's not supposed to. It doesn't have a release date yet, I don't think.
No, I just saw it on here because I was looking for Hollow Knight.
Yeah, Silksong has been in development for a while, and fans of the game are
Waiting patiently.
Yes, waiting patiently. You could say that.
Okay, so I've got my last pick here, and when we were discussing this earlier, Connor seemed a little off put by it.
As the episode has gone on, I've formed a different opinion of this pick.
Okay, so my last pick for games that display a great use of artistic abilities from other fields and from the field of gaming is Super Mario Odyssey, which we haven't surprisingly talked about all too much yet on the podcast.
We have to do like a Mario episode, like straight up.
We really could, yeah. So one of my favorite things about the game is the way that it hops between genres when you hop between worlds. And it's really impressive the way they hop between genres, because like when you go between the different kingdoms, you're getting entirely different world design and music, like depending on the kingdom.
Right.
Which is just like incredible that you have. How many are there? Like 14 or something?
Something like that if you count like
but,
the last few.
Yeah. Every single kingdom that you go to is unique, other than the last few that are all like the same. And they all have their own unique style, soundtrack, design, like vibe. Like you can jump from
characters.
Characters too. Like you jump from, some sort of snowy Iceland to a realistic city with realistic looking people.
Right.
In one game.
To like a old abandoned industrial like complex with like leaves growing all over it and like woods surrounding it.
To a Ridley boss battle.
Oh my god, I forgot about that one.
Yeah.
That one's so surreal.
The whole game is that's why I love it, and that's why I chose it for this specific thing, and also the character designs are amazing. The music is really amazing. Like,
Music's really good.
you can't beat the music. I mean, you can, but the way that like you just go to a kingdom and it's like boom, the music, it's like you're there, you're in this kingdom, and Mario has always done that, especially with his 3D games, perfectly. Like the music and where you are always match up so well, and the controls
Oh my
for
god,
Mario,
they're so fluid.
so smooth, so perfect. Everything makes sense. Another, I feel like, something we didn't talk about, I guess, was interactivity, and this is probably something we'll actually get to in next week's episode of the podcast.
Right.
But like the HD Rumble adds a whole new level.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like when you're falling into the kingdom, and it's like you can like feel each like hit that Mario takes on the ground. And the reason I put this on here was because I just replayed the start of it yesterday. And just like when you get out of you like go on this power line, and
right. You got.
and you get to the when you get out of Cap Kingdom and get into what is it called? Cascade Kingdom.
Cascade. Yeah.
It's just like the music, the rumble, everything just lines up so perfectly. And when it happened the other day, I was like chills, and it's like I don't know, just so
It's
perfect
Mario.
and such a it's Mario too. It's like this is a classic character, beloved character, like, and it still gives me these feels in a way that a lot of like long running franchises like they don't do it for me anymore.
Right.
But like Mario like hops out of that electrical cable thing and steps out, and it's like this is just like perfect, and it's not redone. It's brand new. Everything's unique. And I feel like as an example of what art can be in a video game, like using the past, using great music, great design, great characters, I think that Mario Odyssey fits the bill for every artistic choice that you could make to put into a game. There's 2D sprites.
Except for
There's
except for
8-bit.
story. Story's the one thing it doesn't have.
Okay. You got me there.
But
You got me there. It
everything
doesn't
else-
have a story.
But everything else is great.
But when you're looking at, I guess this is my ideal like piece of art without a story. This is my ideal Moonlight Sonata game.
well, the thing is, like, a game without a story. I feel like there's no perfect representation of art in video games.
No, because
you
it's a
have to-
combination of different things.
If you have everything dialed up to 10, you have to have one thing set to 1. Like there's got to
Yeah.
be some you have to have some sort of give. Like
I really don't think there's anything that is tens across the board.
no, definitely not. Like even Breath of the Wild, I would say that most of it is really is a 10, but sometimes sometimes you just get bored of it. Like the magic wears off very quickly, I feel like.
Yeah.
If you aren't careful. But that
I
doesn't
think
happen
Zelda
with-
is probably the closest that you could get to tens across the board, to be honest. But Odyssey, just for me, it does sacrifice story. I'll say it's probably one of the more story-heavy Mario games.
Yeah, I'd agree.
But it's basically Galaxy 3, and I think it improves on the Galaxy games in every way.
Right.
And I just love it. I couldn't get over the feeling it gave me, and as soon as we started this episode and started talking about the feeling that art gives you, it made me think of that, because there's no story, there's no like dramatic plot twist that makes me be like, ooh. It's just being there. So that's my last pick.
I see.
How about you? Your last pick is pretty meta, I feel like, for what we've been talking about.
So, all right. So my last game. It is kind of meta. I picked Minecraft.
You picked Minecraft.
I picked Minecraft. As we've talked about before, I don't have the best opinion of Minecraft. It gets kind of boring for me after a while. I'm trying to work past that, and hopefully we are going to work past that at some point as well. And you can't deny that it's a very artistic game. I almost said autistic again. But
it is very autistic.
It is a very
game,
autistic game too. But you can decide how artistic you want it to be. It's
maybe Minecraft is the closest you can get to a 10.
No. Well, I was going to say no story, but it does have a lot of passive storytelling.
There's lore, and there's a lot of stories that have been told through Minecraft.
Right. Maybe you're right. Actually, no, I disagree. It's like 7s across the board.
7s across the board.
Because
I see that.
Nothing is quite at 10. But
it's not like you're playing and you're like, this is the most fluid gameplay.
Right. But it has decent gameplay. And you're not like
yeah.
It has enough of a story. It has enough of artistic visuals. But you, as the player, have the choice to increase those levels. If you want to make your game the most beautiful thing in the world, install shaders and build this amazing, beautiful structure that looks incredible. If you wanted to have fluid gameplay, join a Bed Wars server and then PvP to your heart's content. If you want it to have a story, you can watch hundreds of videos on YouTube about how the pillagers are these fucking assholes, and I don't know. I don't remember enough of the theories.
Even I hate to mention it, and this is a sin that I'm mentioning it on the podcast, but the Dream SMP.
Yeah, I mean,
if you want to be here for some
right.
sort of plot, I never got into it, but I know a lot of people did.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Things like that, it's community based. It's community based art,
and it's personalized.
Yeah, and there aren't very many games
like Super Mario 64.
There aren't very many games that really capture the same magic as Minecraft. Terraria.
I agree.
Terraria probably comes the closest, but even then, you don't have servers where these people have made custom commands in order to do certain things.
Yeah, and the huge, larger community as a whole isn't really there with Terraria.
Right. There's a huge mod community, but unless you're playing with friends, you don't get a whole lot of multiplayer aspect of it. And if you're looking for that, then you're really out of luck with that.
It doesn't give me the same feeling that Minecraft does.
No, it doesn't have the same magic, which is unfortunate.
The music
it's a really good game. The music's good in Minecraft. I'd say that's probably the one thing that I don't like as much. It's very nostalgic.
I like the music. It's perfectly relaxing.
Nostalgic and relaxing and atmospheric, but I don't know. There's something about it.
It doesn't really have multiple parts. It's just piano at all times, I'm pretty sure. Right,
except for cave music where it kind of gets a little
bit
of, there's a lot of synths and piano, I should say.
It's very digital.
But it's your artistic creation that you can create, and there aren't very many games that allow you to do that. And if they are, they don't strike the same chord as Minecraft. But
I agree.
I think that's all the time we have for today.
It is. We've been through many things about artistic endeavors through gaming, and I honestly didn't think that we'd have so much to say, but here we are.
I know. I expected this episode to be kind of one of the shorter ones, but
me too.
Man, guess not. It's definitely not one of our longest. Isn't our longest 2 hours?
2 hours. We reached one of them was 2 hours. I don't even know how. I wouldn't want to watch that. I mean, I would. Leave a like on that video.
I think it was one of our first. It was the first two.
Yeah. They were both really long. It was a 5-hour premiere.
Yeah.
Total.
That'll probably have our music episode be 2 hours or something close
At
to
least.
it. At least.
I think it's probably going to be multiple parts.
Probably. But
it's going to be in depth. Just you wait.
But thank you guys so much for listening, so much for watching. Please go follow us on Twitter. We'll be posting updates.
Please follow
Especially,
us.
especially if we end up having to not have a podcast episode this week, and maybe replace it with another video, a Power Hour or Corporeal Bros, or maybe another episode that we are currently having in the works.
You never know what's going to walk through that door.
You never know. But we're going to try to be a little bit more consistent about this. The busiest time of the year, for me at least, is slowing to a halt. I don't know about Jake.
Nope.
No, nope. With Jake, it's kind of speeding up a little bit, I think.
Yeah, but we're doing good. We put out a video once a week since we started, so go us.
I'm actually pretty proud of this. Most of my other projects kind of fell through because I have never been that much of a when it comes to content creation, I've never been able to stick to a schedule. But
we force each other.
We force each other.
So
mostly I force Jake because I'm like
mostly yeah.
Because I'm like, we need to do this, or else we're never gonna do this again. Like, you don't understand.
You force me, and I have just good enough work ethic and just enough caring about this. That sounds horrible.
Oh my god. Okay, if you don't care about if you don't care about this, if you don't care about this.
Okay, I was gonna say
just enough. Viewers, he doesn't care about you. He doesn't care. I was gonna say he cares just enough to make videos for you. He cares just enough.
I was gonna say that I have just enough experience to do it, but I didn't want to be like, because like it's not like we've done anything too amazing yet. So I don't want to say that.
Well, I can see us improving too. Like with each video, each time we edit, we become better at our jobs.
I promise, I care a lot. I care this much. I just didn't want to sound like
No. Did you see he was making this motion. He has just enough of a work ethic and cares just enough to make these for you. You better be fucking happy.
That's not what I meant. I'm really sorry. I do care.
Oh my God.
I do care.
Oh.
I have a lot of work ethic towards this endeavor.
So, anyway.
And that's the Jake Cos promise. Subscribe.
So, follow us on Twitter. Follow us on TikTok. Thank you so much for watching and listening and for giving a fuck, which apparently is more than Jake can do.
Yeah, you put in just enough time into watching these 4 hours worth of content that we made tonight.
Oh my god. Well, thank you guys so much for viewing. And I think we'll just leave it off there. Goodbye.
So long.